Hello everyone and welcome back to Chess Game Development with me. So, in the last lesson we made it so that our game functions slightly differently, so let's show you what I mean. So instead of working with textures, now we are just literally moving the whole piece to another square. So by the end of today's lesson, what I want to make sure, or well, it might not be today's lesson, it might be next lesson as well, seeing as they're taking slightly longer than I want them to. But my main goal for now is to make sure that I have separated white's turn from black's turn, so that once white has made a move, white cannot make another move, and only black can make one move, and then we go back. So let's just get started. The first thing we need to do is to actually have is white turn as a variable in here. So we want that to be a boolean, and we want it to be public because we want to make sure that all the other places can use it. At start we need that to be true because you start with the white's turn. So over here is white equals true, and there we go. So where I'm going to use this variable is just to check whether it's white's turn, and after white has made a move, so over here, after they've made a move, I want to switch it, which therefore means that if is, oops, I need the parentheses in there. So if is white turn, if that's true, then what I want to do is white turn equals false. Otherwise, else, over here, is white turn equals true. So if this is true, then make it false. If it's false, then make it true. I.e. just swap it. And that's just going to be it for now. For the game manager, not that it actually does any function for now because it's not connected to anything. So the next thing I want to do in piece, we need to add a new variable is white. So I think that we need it to be public once again. Public is white. So the piece can either be white or black. If, oops, I need it to be a boolean. That's what I forgot. So is white. If the piece is white, then it's going to function differently to if a piece is black. So if is white is true, then it's white. If is white is false, then it's going to be black. We'd have no other case, which is why we can just simply make it a boolean. And what we would need to do is just go through all of the pieces on the board and change the new variable that we have just added. So is white of this piece over here would, for example, be ticked. And I will just do this off camera really quickly. Okay, so now that we have ticked all of these, don't tick the black ones because the black ones, we need that to be false, i.e. they are black, not white. In the last lesson what we did was pass a whole square to the game manager. So over here, or no, the whole piece to the game manager. So instead of passing the coordinates of a square, why don't we just pass the square as well? Because that's going to make life a lot easier again. So wherever we have wherever we are changing current square selection, we can just pass the square, or another thing we could do is just simply rename this current square selection list or coordinates is that, and then public square, that's supposed to be spaced out and not squared, maths, just maths without the coordinates here, equals, well, we don't want it to be equal to anything just yet because we are going to do that in our start method, which is over here, equals all squares, which isn't actually defined yet, so we need this to be right at the end, all squares, and current square selection, and so on. So we do current square selection coordinates 0 and coordinates 1. And that's just going to give us the square, and we can just use it more easily. I believe that that's the way I have dealt with that. Or no, this is one way, as I said. The other way would just be to find where we change this. So in square, do we change it anywhere? Yes, we do. So instead of doing this, we can just make current square selection equals this, which just passes the square. And I think that we also do something like that in piece. Let's find that. Oh no, we don't. So that is fine then. So what we need to do in square then is we don't need this anymore. However, we do need to change some of the stuff. So let's full screen this. And now instead of current square selection, blah blah blah, we can do something else. And we don't actually need to even do this checking, because, well, it's always going to be inside of these boundaries. Therefore, there's no reason to check for this. However, we are still going to have to check that a square is selected. So let's comment this out for now. And put current square selection doesn't equal null. Where null is just if nothing is so we are saying if a square is selected. And here, instead of setting it to 8 and so on, we just want to set it to be equal to null, because we want to deselect any selection that we have made. So that's the condition we are checking for, that there is a selected square. And here, instead of having all squares, we can just do current square selection. So what we're doing is just making our code more efficient, and more readable as well. Like this, we compress this whole expression into just one thing. And that's still all going to work the same. So far, I believe that we can still actually, play our game the same way, because we haven't added any functionality with the booleans we have. And there we go. We are still going to be able to just move our pieces at any time. So moving on, the next thing we want to change is to only allow the players whose turn it is to move. So how we do that, now we want to check whether is white turn is the selected piece. So in our piece then, what we want to do is go where our select piece function or method is, so which is over here, and we only want to do this if just a second, let me set this out. If this dot is white is the same as the canvas, which I believe I have initialized, or maybe not. The canvas dot is white. So if those are equal, and game manager is white turn, is white turn. So if this piece is white and it's white's turn, then do this. Otherwise, don't do it, because there's no point in doing it. Also, I can see that I've done this in here. Why don't we just initialize that straight away? So instead of doing this, we Ctrl X and start. I can copy this over, delete this part, and add it here, because we might want to use it in other places as well. So I think that this is the smarter choice. Another thing is that we actually never use texture number anymore, because, well, we're just moving the classes over. So I don't think that that's actually going to break anything. If we search up texture, nothing. Search up texture, nothing again. So there's really no point in doing anything with textures anymore. So we can just delete, or at least comment them out for now. Meaning we don't actually need this either at all. Oops, not there. And that's not the correct orientation either. There we go. piece texture, we don't need that. So if let's try playing our game once again to make sure that nothing is broken. Let's go into the console as well. Ignore this. Once you restart the program, it should be fine. Oh, we do have something wrong. So object reference not set to an instance of an object. Ah, okay. So this is nothing to do with texture number. This is just because we are entering inside of here when we are not supposed to. And there is a fix around this. I just need to find it. So the way I went around this is by adding this piece, this line. So put this into brackets. Put an and here. If I can find it, there we go. And I don't need the extra set of parentheses. Now, valid moves is going to come later on. Actually, I don't think that I should be adding this just yet. Okay, I just need to have a quick look into this. So my problem was that allow square selection was for some reason on at the start of the game, and also the pieces weren't didn't have is white checked. I think that the main reason for that was because I hadn't saved my scene before I started it. So if something like that happens, check that. What you can also do is, you've probably seen a lot of these lines around my code, is debug.log. What that does is, once you go into that section of the code, you get some output in the console. It's not an error, it just does whatever you tell it to. In here you can put a variable, you can put a string, whatever you want. And it helps you see whether that line of code is ran and where it gets up to before it gives you an error. After you're finished, either comment those out or delete them, because they're not really good to stay in your code. There we go. So what happens now, let's just show you, is we have actually achieved what we wanted to. So I can't select another white piece before I select a black piece, and so on. There we go. And I can still click on the square without clicking on the canvas to select something. There we go, which I have just shown you. So the last thing I would like to do, which I think I do still have some time for, is allow if it's white's turn to take black's piece, and if it's black's turn to take white's piece. I think I'm not that confident I have that much time. I think I have like 2-3 minutes, so let's just do this really quickly. So then what we want to do is, if we select the opponent's piece, then we want to select the square instead of the piece and move our piece to that square. Which means that on pointer down, in our piece, actually not in our square, what we want to do is first of all check that if we're selecting a square which has our piece, then we want to select that piece. However, if we have a piece where we're selecting the opponent's piece, then we want to select the square from there. We are going to define that function in just a moment. So we select the square, so meaning we need to go into our square, and we need to define a new function called select square, which I have already pre-prepared over here. Select square, and it's actually quite a long method, but I am gonna go through it as I always do. So the canvas, we need to define that, so let's do that before we do anything. So public game manager the canvas, and then the canvas in our start equals how did we do it in our piece again? Here we go. Game object of find of type, and so on. Good. So we have no errors now. Avoid update. Why is that giving me an error? I'm probably just missing Yeah, I'm missing one of those. There we go. Good. So let's explain what it does. Ignore that because it's a comment, it doesn't function. We can remove this for now as well, because that comes into play later on, not now. So if we are allowed to select a square, and the square, so the current square that we're selecting has no children, then just select the square, because, well, you should be allowed to move to an allowed square anytime you want. Let's comment this out as well. So if you selected a square which has no piece on it, just select that square and allow it to move to there. So the canvas current square selection equals this, and it moves on. Else if this game object doesn't, so it does have, if this game object, so if the square has children, i.e. has a piece in it, and the piece in the square is the color of the person whose turn it is, then select the piece that is on there, because you don't want to destroy your own piece, and you're not allowed to in chess. Otherwise, if there are pieces in the square on the square, and the piece isn't the same color as the player's turn, then select the square that the piece is on, and also move on to the next step. Otherwise, so if none of these are true, then what we do is just deselect everything, and also ignore this because that comes in later on, and we are going to talk about that later because it doesn't matter for now. So let's see if this works. I don't think that it is going to for a reason, but let's just check it out. So if we go onto there, yep, there we go. So it doesn't work, is what I was trying to get at. So what we need to actually do is in Game Manager, now we need to first of all delete the piece that is in there first. So before we actually move the piece, we want to delete the piece that is on the square, which we do by going through all of the child elements that are on the square at that time and just destroying them. There we go. Now let's try that again. Save project and save scenes. Let's see if it works now. Move that to there, move that to and we have another error which is slightly more complicated to fix, so let's also finish this. So the way to fix this error is to make, first of all, this public, because we are going to need to use it, or yeah, okay, we need to make that public. Next we want to comment this line out, and instead we want to add it to where we started off. And then in the Game Manager, we want to change how we set coordinates. So let me just find this real quick. Current square selection equals this. So we just literally assign this. So we change square's current piece selection into whatever piece in square into current piece selection, and what we did here is, instead of getting the component that is in the on the square, because I don't know why this doesn't work the way it's supposed to, but it doesn't work the way it's supposed to, or at least the way that I have it in my mind. So instead we just use it for initialization and we don't use it for later on. And now if we try, we are left with a working game. There's only one more error. So what the error previously that was happening was that the coordinates of the piece, so for example this piece here, wouldn't change. They would stay the same. So instead of having 4, 4 here, it would be 6, 4. And we don't want that. We wanted to have the current coordinates, and we would get that error because it will not understand that it has these coordinates, and it just wouldn't work the way we wanted it to. The next thing we need to fix is, well, if we press on the square and there's a piece on it, we're not allowed to move our pawn to there. So just for convenience, we want to make sure that we are actually allowed to move our piece to there. And I will come back with that solution in just a second. So actually, because we've already made select square here, we don't need to deal with that on the pointer down event. We can just put select square on pointer down, and that's going to deal with this. So what was happening previously was that when we clicked on a square of the opponent, not the piece, it would select that piece, and we could actually move the opponent's piece on our turn. But we don't want that, and to fix it, simply because we have the select square method, we can just use it over here. And now we should have a pretty much finished product of what we were wanting to do anyway. So I can move that to there, move it to there, I can move to the square there, I can move the blacks to the square. If I try to select, so I'm looking at main canvas, let's see whose turn it is. It's white's turn, because I know it's white's turn because that's ticked. If I try to, okay, now it's black's turn, so if I try to press on the square there, nothing happens, because I'm not allowed to select the square before I've selected the piece, and I am not allowed to select the opponent's piece either. And so now it's all working the way we want it to. It's black's turn, so I can just move that. There we go. So now we are done with that. In the next lesson, I think that we are actually going to start making each of the pieces moves. So let me just show you where I am up to with that, to show you what I would like to finish off by doing. So as you can see, I know where I want to move, and if I have a special case, I can even move to there. I haven't finished programming things like the castling or en passant, but that comes for another lesson. But this is what I think I want to have done in the next lesson. So thank you so much for watching this video. If you have any questions, then feel free to ask in the comments down below. I will be happy to help out. And again, I would like you to tell me what length do you think suits you the best. I know that for me it's something between 10 and 20 minutes for programming of watching, because anything more it's just kind of like I'm not too sure if I want to watch that because it's too long. Anything shorter, I'm not sure if I would learn enough or cover enough material. So yeah, thank you so much for watching this video once again, and goodbye.